Housing is one of the largest asset classes in the world, yet for millions of people, its value is locked, immobile, and unusable. Despite owning valuable homes, many households struggle to access liquidity without selling their homes or taking on long-term debt. Globally, residential real estate represents over $300 trillion in value, yet most of it remains illiquid. Today, housing finance operates in a crowded red ocean. Banks compete on mortgage rates and credit risk. Developers compete on selling units. Landlords compete on rent extraction. All of them follow the same rules: debt, ownership transfer, or displacement. And despite decades of competition, the housing affordability and liquidity problem remains unresolved. The fundamental issue is not housing supply, it is housing liquidity. Residential homes hold enormous value, but that value cannot move. Hi, I am Eashani, a student of KR Mangalam World School, India. And the insight we just explored led me to ask a simple question. What if homes didn't need to be sold or mortgaged for their value to become usable? Enova exists to solve this inefficiency. It creates a new housing finance market by transforming illiquid residential home equity into a liquid, investable financial asset, without loans and without forcing homeowners to sell. Here's how it works. A homeowner sells a small, standardized equity portion of their home. They receive upfront capital while continuing to live in the house they own. There are no monthly repayments, no interest obligations, and no foreclosure risk. Investor returns are realized through predefined events, such as a future home sale, refinancing, or a structured buyback window. Typical investment horizons align naturally with homeownership cycles, usually 10 to 20 years. This is equity participation, not credit. For homeowners, Enova removes the most painful trade-offs. They gain liquidity without debt, they retain ownership and stability, and they achieve financial flexibility without repayment pressure. For investors, Enova unlocks housing exposure without operational burden. Returns are linked to long-term property appreciation rather than borrower behavior. This attracts patient, long-term capital seeking stable asset-backed growth. To understand how Enova differs, we map the housing industry on a strategy canvas. Traditional players, banks, landlords, and developers compete across similar factors: liquidity access, debt burden, repayment pressure, ownership retention, financial flexibility, displacement risk, and investor accessibility. Although they appear different, all operate within the same logic: debt, ownership transfer, or displacement. To break away from this competition, Enova applies the Blue Ocean ERRC framework: eliminate, reduce, raise, and create. Enova eliminates the need for loans, mortgages as the primary way to access housing value. Reduce. It reduces repayment pressure, financial rigidity, and displacement risk that define traditional housing finance. Raise. It raises liquidity access, ownership retention, and long-term financial flexibility for homeowners. And most importantly, Enova creates something new: a standardized market for residential home equity participation. This shifts competition away from lending terms and toward market creation. New markets are created not by serving existing customers better, but by reaching those excluded from the system. The first tier includes asset-rich but cash-poor homeowners who avoid loans despite needing liquidity. The second tier includes institutional investors who avoid residential housing due to operational complexity. The third tier includes global capital sources unable to access residential home equity because no standardized market exists. Enova connects all three within one system. Enova could begin through a focused pilot in a single housing market where standardized equity agreements allow homeowners to voluntarily unlock small portions of home value. Trust would be built through transparent contracts, independent valuation, and clear ownership protection. As participation grows, equity portions could be aggregated into diversified portfolios, allowing long-term investors to access housing exposure without managing property directly. In this way, scaling would not require building new homes, only standardizing how value moves between homeowners and capital. Enova represents how housing finance could evolve when liquidity becomes the focus instead of debt. Thank you.